Blink or you'll miss it. Oh, glorious time of year when the Annabelle hydrangea, the old girl, is in bloom. She really looks good. And in this kind of weather, when it's not too hot and it's not too much heavy rain, she really shines. In fact, if it could just be like this all the time, I would not even think about having to transplant her to another part of the garden. Hi everybody, I'm Lori, your milkweeds and roses gardener here in Iowa, Zone 5B, where the weather today anyway is a real blessing. Now we've had a cycle of storms come through here, probably the same where you live, but a lot of them happened before she was really in full bloom and had the weight of these big flower heads to put her in danger. But again, I'm just enjoying the most of this day while I can. So I'm going to show you an update here of the garden. We're going to walk around to some spots that are looking good and some spots that are not. This is garden gap season. You know, when it becomes apparent that there's some areas in your garden that either through rabbits or weather or just bad planning have put a lot of plants at risk. Maybe you've lost some. Maybe you're seeing some opportunities to add some more color into the border. That's what we're talking about here. Now, to that end, you'll see some plants that I do have. I did get some more marigolds. I'm not that big a fan on this bright, bright yellow, but they do work, at least help, in thwarting rabbits. And I have a new rabbit nest. That big mama rabbit from last week's video, oh yeah, she's liking the garden, and she's just made a new nest right here. I've got a stick to kind of help the lawnmower folks realize that, you know, I don't want to see any of her babies hurt or anything, but it does mean I have to amend some of my planting because she's here and she's going to have some babies. Well, that's how that goes. In the meantime, I do have some other plants that have just shockingly appeared. That's because they're weeds. I didn't plant them. Let's come on over to the north garden and I'll show you what I mean. I think this is a type of invasive honeysuckle, maybe an Amur honeysuckle, which is found throughout Iowa, especially in woodlands where the ground has been disturbed or where it's kind of moist. They grow fast and they take over the root space and crowd out more valuable plants and native plants to Iowa. So yeah, the key is you don't want to keep this thing here. Now, I've never seen this type of plant produce some sort of flowers, mostly because when I finally identify it, I take it out before it gets to that stage. But yeah, there are a lot of these, so I had to dig it out primarily. So, you know, I didn't want the roots to break under the ground so much. I did bring my my little planting cutting knife here. I was surprised that I could see it. At first, it appeared to start to come out on its own. I swear this has just been here for maybe a month at most, and I cannot believe it must be putting on inches a day in growth. So I had to expect the same when it came to roots, but I did get out a good root section, and I'll have to keep watching this area to see if it comes back. But that's what it looks like, and you don't want that in your garden. So, that job done. Then on to the next one. I did notice while I was there that the bee balm plant was looking a little bit haggard, a little bit tired, because the flowers had gone over. So I watered it and deadheaded the flowers off. Now this isn't to make it rebloom because it won't, but there is a value to these blooms because of the scent that they have. So I sprinkled them around areas where the rabbits have been especially busy in the hopes of, again, using nature to thwart bunnies. That's what I'm hoping anyway. So I sprinkled around the coneflowers because they seem to like those. So I have the marigolds I planted there last week plus the scent of Mandara. Now I have more. There seems to be a real bargain on marigolds in the big box stores right now. They're a little root bound in their containers, but they do provide a whole lot of bright color and they like it here. They're just an annual, but I thought I'd add these to the front tree bed. So I'm sprinkling out, or I'm pulling out the dirt here and putting them in areas where the rabbits have been, again, pretty busy and chewing some plants down that I'd like to keep. So the ground is nice and fertile here and moist. It does stay fairly damp, though. I think that's just the nature of the ash tree that used to be there. It had an extensive root system. It was there for like 40 years. So this is a nice and moist planting pocket. You can see why weeds like it and why squirrels like to dig their nuts into it. So yeah, whatever I can do to thwart them would be good. So I put some more marigolds in here. They will expand quite a bit, and I don't mind that. They won't come back for the spring, but I might save a couple of the seed heads here because they're really easy to propagate by seed. When the blooms are spent, just nip them off, let the seed heads dry, and then sprinkle those seed heads and cover them with like maybe an inch of dirt at most. And they might even rebloom in the same season. So that's kind of what I do there. So the last step, once I get these all tucked in, is kind of look around the rest of the garden bed here and see, well, are there other weeds? Is the mulch evenly dispersed? And, water it if I need to. Even though it is moist in here, I wanted to make sure that provide a drink of water to these plants. As I said, they're kind of root bound and they were fairly dry. And that's mostly just because there was only root in that little plastic pot that I bought them in. So they probably need to be planted about a month ago, honestly. But you can get them for, I think I got them for $1. So pretty good bargain, hard to pass that up. So I decided to put that in there. And I do have some warm colors in this tree bed here. While I was digging, by the way, I found something really gross. Yes, hello, a grub in the tree bed dirt. Now this will turn into a Japanese beetle if you let it, but oh, isn't that disgusting? Yeah. So I decided let's just keep him for the birds. There's some robins that I know would appreciate him. Then on to the next bed here. Now I have some real pretty little cone flowers that I found at my local garden center. And I thought, okay, normally I'm not a huge fan of that bright acid yellow. My husband's favorite color is yellow, and he can see this vista from his office. So I thought, okay, since it needs some color right here, some things are winding into the next season. Spring is gone, the soft colors are gone. So let's put some nice, bright, cheery cone flowers in here. Now I realize rabbits do like cone flowers, and there's a lot of roots competing here. Anything I plant in this garden bed, I have to use a small little, either a hori-kori. I cannot use an auger. I cannot use a huge spade because of all the tree roots, but also there's electrical wiring in here, and I have to see it to make sure I avoid it. Now this has been marked by the number that you call to make sure all the wires are marked and labeled, and I've done that several times over the years, so I'm fairly aware of where they are at this point. But yeah, just digging in there, and I already found electrical wiring, and that is for the landscape lighting that my husband installed himself. So I thought, okay, don't want to sever that. That's not cool. So dig around that or pick a hole next to that. And again, this 70-year-old maple that is to my right has a lot of tree roots, so you can see the wire there. So if I was using an auger or a big spade, I'd probably sever that and not even know. Now I'm adding some mycorrhizal granules in here just because of all the tree roots from that huge old maple tend to suck up all the moisture and all the nutrients. So if plants can get a little bit of a head start with some fertilizer that I can help them do, something that's nice and gentle, then I'll do that. So I put that in there before the coneflower, and then push the soil and the mulch back in place. Water it well. I water these things as often as I can, hand water, of course. But yeah, it's going to need a little bit of a jump start to take root in here. And then I will have to sprinkle it with some rabbit repellent while I'm at it. Now this is a little bit of a ginger spot here to get to. I found a weed along the way, throw that out. But yeah, this is right by the waterfall. And this gets about 6 hours of morning sun. So again, to bring some consistency with that yellow for summer and going into fall, I found a little rutabaga that, well, okay, this might work well. They like a somewhat moist area, and it is nice and moist in here, even though there's a lot of root competition from the pine tree behind me. I thought I can dig it in here and see if it takes off. But yeah, I found a good deal on this particular plant. So I thought, oh, that might be kind of sweet. Put that in there. It won't get too tall. We'll kind of watch it and see what happens. Put that back in there, and I watered it back in place. And then the key again, stepping gingerly out of that garden bed. Now, time to look at cutback season. So this bleeding heart, or Dicentra, it was here when we came, and it is a nice, robust plant. It's well over 20 years. The flowers are long gone, but I noticed last year when I did some pruning on this, more inadvertently than anything else, it had a rebloom. So, bleeding hearts will rebloom, not as robustly, but if the weather is cool and not way, way hot, they will rebloom if you prune them back. And we'll just kind of see if I get the same result this year. So as I was pruning back, though, I did notice, do you see that off to the left? Oh my gosh, it's a reflecting globe holder. I didn't even know it was there because this plant is an early grower, and so it filled the space, and then the hostas soon followed. So yeah, just kind of worked on that. I didn't even realize it was in there. So I pruned down this Dicentra, not all the way to the ground. I still want some sort of a presence here because then there's a gap. But I did free up some space. There's a smaller hosta underneath this, so it will get a little more moisture, a little more exposure, some nice air circulation. So I thought, okay, I'll take that down a little bit. Now in this area, because it's right in front of a 30-year-old crabapple tree, this crabapple tree is producing some water sprouts, and that happens every year. So I just try to stay on top of it, prune them down as close as I can to the ground. And I do the chop and drop. I chop them and just drop it right in place because it can feed nitrogen back into the soil, and it's not in anybody's way. So, job done.
Well, even if it doesn't rebloom, there is one advantage to cutting back that bleeding heart plant. Look what I found buried at the base. It is the stand for my reflecting globe. Remember, I was looking for that a little bit earlier. If you've been following, you know that. But the plants grow up around spring, and some things just seem to disappear. There's also a hori-kori knife in here somewhere. I don't know. But hey, look, I'm happy that I got this back. Didn't have to buy another one. You stick it in there and see. Okay. Yeah, it looks better already. Yay! Well, I hope you subscribe. Who knows what else we might uncover as the season progresses. But anyway, I will keep you posted on how some of these things that we have cut back or planted, with the coneflower and the rudbeckia and the marigolds. We'll see how that all works as the season progresses. Thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. I hope your garden is green and growing in the meantime. Bye.